Hey everybody, it's Mr. Mott. What we're going to do is go through our introduction to our burette, which we use for our titration experiments. Here's our 50 milliliter burette. Obviously you can see it's a pretty long, thin tube. And then in my other hand I've got a 50 milliliter graduated cylinder. So they're both holding the same amount, but you can see that the graduated cylinder is a lot wider than the burette. Some other important differences are what they're used for. So graduated cylinder can measure out an approximate volume pretty well. The fact that our burette is thinner and longer actually enables us to know more precisely how much liquid we have. But there's also some other important things, differences as well. Your graduated cylinder is really used to contain a certain amount. Whereas when we use a burette, what we're concerned with is how much liquid we let out of our burette, or how much we dispensed. All right. So if I go in and we zoom in on our 50 milliliter burette, hopefully we can see now, there we go, that at the top line says 50. On our burette, our top line says 0. And then our bottom line, at the very bottom there, if we can turn that to see it, the very bottom line says 50. Hard to get that in focus there. There we go. Bottom line says 50. So they're sort of opposite in sort of how they're organized with their numbers, and that's all due to the different function that we have. All right. Other things to know about our burette. Burettes are actually made of two pieces. The sort of the long, thin tube here, we call it our barrel, and then the tip assembly here. And they're held together by a friction fit. And so this model that I'm holding here actually has this attachment that screws together to hold these together. So I'll take this apart and pull this apart, and it's just a friction fit. So a lot of times the barrel here and the tip assembly will just sort of push together by friction and then just sort of stay there. So for models that don't have this, that's, you want to be careful when you're using the burette not to put too much pressure towards the tip, because you could actually kind of loosen it and you might get some leaking in this area. All right, so if you do get some leaking in that area, first thing I would do is kind of push these together and that sort of thing. But what's nice about these two is that these two pieces here, this assembly actually kind of tries to hold those together. So we just thread those on there, and that's going to help kind of keep everything together. All right. Other things to know about our Buret assembly is that, what do we call all these things? The main thing that we use to dispense our liquid is this valve here. The valve is actually called a stopcock, but a lot of times sophomores kind of giggle at that sort of thing, so I usually just call it a valve. And so things to know about this is that when our valve is in line, where it's parallel to the barrel here, that means that liquid is going to flow out freely. When it's perpendicular like this, it's in the off position and nothing should be coming out the tip. And then there's some variability. You can open it a little bit more, and then all the way to full on, depending on how much you want to dispense. And just getting sort of used to letting out a certain amount of liquid at a time is a skill that can only be really attained by practice. All right. So hopefully you've learned all the different parts of our burette and how they work. The last thing to mention, just kind of from an accuracy point of view, take a look at our graduated cylinder. Each of the lines on our graduated cylinder represents 1 milliliter. However, on our burette, see if I can kind of zoom in, on our burette, each of the lines is worth a different amount, okay? So each of the lines here is worth 1/10. Okay, it might be kind of hard to tell there, but each line is worth 1/10 there. And so if our burette is each line is worth each line is graduated to the 10th place, we estimate to the 100th place. Whereas in a graduated cylinder, we would measure to the ones and estimate to the tenths. So what that tells us is that our burette is a much more accurate piece of equipment. Thanks for watching.